Hey everybody, it's Sire, and today I'm going to review the new Fantastic Four movie. In case you can't tell, I'm pretty tired right now. I'm not gonna lie, but I didn't start off the day that way. I went into Fantastic Four full of energy, going to the movies with my friends, but it was just so unbelievably boring from beginning to end. I don't know how they managed to make it that boring. I don't. They even managed to make the scene where they first gain their powers boring. I didn't. I was just so I can't find another word to explain it. Boring, dull, bland. I was just bored. Even during the climax of the movie, the progression of this movie was literally just boring, slightly more boring to slightly less boring, but that's slightly less than more boring. So it basically averaged out to just very boring. That That's a good description. The acting wasn't great, although I thought Jamie Bell, who played Ben Grimm, aka the Thing, I thought he did a good job when he first became the Thing. The way he was shouting out for help, I honestly felt like he was actually in pain. And had I not been already bored to tears, I probably would have felt an emotion. But other than that, no other actors really shined very brightly in this, which is a shame because even though they're not my favorite actors, I know that all these actors are very talented. It's a very talented cast, but they just did not demonstrate that talent in this movie. The special effects weren't very good either. There were a couple of things that I thought were pretty well done, like the way the Thing looks. I really liked the way he looked, especially compared to the last Fantastic Four movies where he looked like he was covered in plastic blocks. Here he actually looked like he was made of rock, like he's meant to be. And I thought Mr. Fantastic's stretching, while not the greatest, I thought it was pretty good compared to the rest of it. But the way Invisible Woman, played by Kate Mara, the way she floated in her invisible shields was just so not good. Like, you could tell that there was a wire attached to her back and she was just hanging from it, but she has a CG bubble around her and that's what's making her fly. No, no, it was not like that. It was just not good. It was not good effects at all. And the Human Torch's flames, played by Michael B. Jordan, they weren't horrible, but they weren't good either. But like when they went to the alternate dimension, it they just looked like they were in the same room. It was obvious that it was a green screen. It just was. It did not look realistic at all. It did not look like an actual background would look. It just didn't. The plotline, for the most part, was all right. It wasn't great, but it was decent. There were some parts where I was like, that decision doesn't really logic in the slightest at all. And I feel like you're leaving out something in this part. But other than a couple moments, it was pretty. It was a decent plot. However, the relationships in this movie, there weren't really any. The only actual relationship I actually saw was between Ben Grimm and Reed Richards, played by Miles Teller. They had an actual friendship going on, and I could see that in the movie. But then they went through this whole thing themselves that never really got resolved on camera. At the very least, it was just kind of poof. Hey, everything's good again, and now we're fighting the bad guy for real this time, and that's it. And then the relationships between all the other characters, Reed Richards with anyone, Ben Grimm with anyone, Johnny Storm, played by Michael B. Jordan, with anyone, even his father and sister. Like, they tried to show that there was a relationship there, but it was literally like 2 sentences of dialogue for each of them, and they never really went anywhere with it. And then all this stuff happened at the end with the Storm family, and again, didn't really do anything with it. They were just like, oh my god, and then on to fight the bad guy. No, that's it. I'm not really upset about this. It's just surprising. That's it. Nothing. I have no soul. Despite all this, my biggest issue by far with this movie was the boredom. It was just so mind-numbingly boring, but had it not been that boring, it could have and should have been a pretty decent movie. And I'm so amazed that it's somehow this boring. It's the Fantastic Four. They're the first superhero team that Marvel has ever made. They marked a cornerstone in Marvel's history as a comic publisher. It's just, it should not be this hard to make just a decent Fantastic Four movie is all I'm asking for. There's obviously something there if they're this important to Marvel's history. Maybe it's just differing time periods, but something should be there. Anything. But they just fail time and time again. But that leads me to my next point. This movie compared to the older Fantastic Four movies. Well, let me just say that by no means were the previous Fantastic Four movies very good. They were not great at all, but I honestly liked them more than this new movie. The, say what you will about the older Fantastic Four movies, but I, at the very least, had some fun watching them. They kept me entertained even the slightest bit, and that is more than I could say about this movie. This movie had the potential to be great, and like I said before, it should have and could have easily been great, but it just wasn't. It was just boring the entire way through, and it's sad that I have to say that, but it's true. And like I've said multiple times during this review, it had the potential to be a good movie. It should have and could have easily been a good movie, even if they just took the same movie and tweaked it a little bit, changing the ending because that was just a mess, and changing the beginning so it's not so mind-numbingly boring. If they had just done a few tweaks and twists here and there, it would have been a much, much better movie. But they took a good concept and a moderately okay script and just they ruined it. They just ruined it with Boredom. They really did. And as I'm exiting the theater with my friends, I'm wondering, this movie could have been better, but why? How could it be better? And my friend Vincent, who I saw the movie with, were just like, if Marvel had made the movie, it would have been a much better movie. And I was like, that's exactly it. And I know a lot of you are probably thinking, oh, Marvel and Fox are fighting, and you're just a Marvel fanboy defending Marvel because you think they're better, and then in the right. But no, the only comic book character I have any sort of attachment to is Deadpool. I don't have any sort of attachment to Marvel or DC or Fox at all. And let me explain why I think Marvel could have made this a better movie. Because the movies that Marvel releases nowadays are fun. They're entertaining. Even the worst of them are at least a little bit entertaining, if not because there's at least a few jokes that you just love, or because you're exploring a whole different mythology in another dimension. But in this movie, it had none of that. Even the science wasn't explained well enough for it to be entertaining. Actually, the science wasn't even explained. They just said teleportation, alternate dimensions. Okay, you guys get it, right? Good, I'm glad. In the end, I'm going to give this movie 2 out of 5 stars because it was just so boring and poorly executed that I just can't give it any credit for the potential it actually did have. It's as simple as that. And let's be honest, if you like the old Fantastic Four movies better than any movie, that movie probably doesn't deserve more than 2 stars. Coming out of this movie, I felt exactly like I do when I get out of a really boring class at school.